Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Doug Ferguson. I'm the Director of Development for Delaware County Community College and the Educational Foundation. Today, I'm joined with Paul Mulhern, from the class of 1984. And we're going to do a brief presentation today on a recent book that he's helped write and share on Amazon that's available for purchase. In the interest of letting everyone know who has an idea forming in their heads, but not quite sure how to execute, about how to get your own works published, as well as sharing his experiences here at the college nearly 30 years ago. So I'd like to welcome my guest today, Paul Mulhern. Good afternoon, Paul.
Thanks, Doug. Happy to be here.
Paul, where are you coming to us from today?
I live in Washington Township, New Jersey, just about 30 miles from the college. And
Okay.
I did relocate and settle here when I got done traveling a bit with the Army and Customs. So about 20 years ago, I settled here.
Very good. Okay. So can you talk a little bit about, we've talked about you graduated in 1984. Can you tell me what degree that you got and how it helped you either pursuing continued education or helped you in your career?
Yes, my degree was in the administration of justice, and that really paid off because it enabled a smooth transition to Penn State University main campus for the same major. I also got into the Army ROTC program there and served 4 years of active duty with the U.S. Army. Upon being discharged, my education as well as my Army experience enabled me to make a quick transition to U.S. Customs Service at JFK Airport, where I spent the next 5 years. And then I transferred to Philadelphia about 1994, where I led a lot of narcotic interdiction teams. And after 9/11, our whole focus shifted to anti-terrorism teams. So I managed those teams for another 15 years or so. But at that point, I retired and wanted to write a book about my daughter. But I knew I needed to strengthen my writing skills. I had a strong foundation in writing from a community college. But to really write a quality book, I wanted to learn more about creative writing. So I went and got a master's in creative writing at Rowan University. But the college was a great start for me because I wasn't the best high school student. But at the college, I found very reasonable professors, the small classrooms, and I really liked the recreation part. I recently got back to campus as I was visiting the area. I was surprised at the additional buildup of houses around it. And even the parking lot seemed a lot bigger because I used to play street hockey on those lots on an intramural basis, and I really couldn't find which one because it seems like there were so many more levels, as well as baseball and flag football down on the fields. And I couldn't find my way back there with all the brush that came until I find a very nice path, and everything ultimately looked the same.
So if I can go to that, and then we'll talk again about your career in a second, but before you recently visited campus, when was the last time that you were here, do you think?
My parents lived close by, so I'd say it was in the late 90s.
Okay.
The last time I visited.
So you hadn't seen some of the changes in the new building additions. We have like our new science building or our advanced technology center, which would be different from when you were here back in the day. So the one thing I always tell people, we are always evolving and changing to meet the needs of our communities. And we've had to build new facilities and different classrooms and simulation labs and auto mechanic labs to meet the needs of our workforce and the student body. So if you haven't been by, if you're an alum who hasn't been here for a number of years, stop on by. We'd love to give you a tour or show you all the progress that we've made and talked about the new projects that we have going on, which I'll conclude on in a few minutes. So Paul, you graduated in 94. You went on, you got your master's degree in creative writing. You served with the federal government and through the Army. So thank you for your service. Was there any one particular experience here at the college that set you up to help you with your career, or is there something you carry with you to this day?
A guy by the name of Joe Trevelino ran the criminal justice program. His brother Tony taught as well, and all 11 courses I had in criminal justice were from those two guys. And former Philadelphia police officers, very knowledgeable, very bright, and they really taught their class requiring you have a strong foundation of writing. So in addition to what you got through the composition courses, you had to become a good writer to do well in their classes in their program. And I carried that through to Penn State, and throughout my career, I was always known as a very proficient writer. And I'm grateful to those guys for making that a priority.
Okay. And so what are you doing currently, if I may ask, before we get into the main topic today?
As part of getting my master's degree at Rowan, I took some additional courses in teaching, and now I teach at Rowan as an adjunct professor, part-time, 2 classes a semester, just English composition 1 and English composition 2, as well as writing for managers, and great way to stay sharp and stay active with the community.
Very good. And you also talk about, you do some work with the Student Veterans Group at Rome. Would you like to talk about that a little bit? Since thank you again for your service, and in celebration of Veterans Day last week, that's a very important mission. Would you like to share about that?
Yes, and veterans as well as law enforcement officers seem to have much greater struggles with mental health than the general population. Now, why is this? The VA's thrown millions of dollars at it, and the numbers don't seem to come down. I think the veterans miss the camaraderie, miss the commitment, miss the thrill of jumping out of airplanes, operating $1 million systems, riding motorcycles, or rappelling out of helicopters, and they can't really replace that in the civilian world. And I think that's one reason so many veterans struggle. So I'm trying to take some of that perspective and share it with the Veterans Department at Rowan, as well as veterans I know. If we could maintain some type of camaraderie in the civilian world and find some type of challenges, then perhaps we could deal with these issues as opposed to caving into them.
Okay, very good. So thank you again for what you're doing for students and for Rowan. If ever there's an opportunity here at the college, hopefully we can talk about that, maybe working with some of our veterans or even some of our future writers. We have creative writing classes and students interested in such things, so I'll be happy to share that. We do connect students and graduates for mentoring opportunities and related projects from time to time. If a student doesn't quite know what they want to do with their career or need some help, we always reach out to alumni. So if Paul, we might reach out to you for that, or if you're watching this today and have interest in becoming a mentor or part-time volunteer for one of our programs, please reach out to me. My information will be in the link at the end, and I'll be happy to set that up for you. So the main reason we're here today is that Paul reached out to me over the summer to share. He recently published a book in, I believe, April of 2022, this past spring. And I'm going to pull it up on screen. But Paul, I'm going to turn this over to you and talk about what the book is about. And then we'll talk about the publishing process and how you got to be on Amazon in particular. So if you bear with me 1 second, let me share my screen. Okay, so for those of you watching after the fact, we've shared the title of the book is called Saving Shannon, Family's Story of Strength and Devotion, published in April 20th, 2022, available in all formats, and written by our guest today, Paul Mulhern. So Paul, I'm going to turn over to you and talk a little bit about your family, the reason for the book, and then how people can find it.
Sure, this book's all about my daughter, who was struck by a sports utility vehicle when she was 3 years old. She suffered multiple brain injuries, was airlifted to Cooper Trauma Center, where they said she had so much significant brain injury, there were slim chances of survival and no chances of recovery. Ultimately, I got her to DuPont Hospital for Children a week later while she was still in a coma, where the experts were even more negative. There is no chance for recovery. But they did start a very aggressive therapy program with 14 professionals on the team and all these innovative forms of therapy. And after a week of that, I actually woke up much earlier than expected. They continued that regimen of up to 8 hours a day of therapy for 2 months. After she was discharged, she maintained that therapy as an outpatient for another 2 months. Then she transitioned to the local school system, where it was half of the time was their regular coursework, half of the time was additional therapy. And she made what was described as miraculous progress because she had skull fractures, bleeding in the brain, swelling in the brain, and worse was shearing of neurons and axons in the brain, an injury very few people recover from. Now, back then, it was such a struggle to deal with, such a shock to all of us, that I started looking for references or books on pediatric brain injury. I found basically nothing because there's so few incidents of good recovery from such an injury. So I said, I'm going to write a book about this. So as Shannon continued to get better, I got more and more time on my hands. And of course, she got better, her motor skills improved, but then we had a lot of issues with her cognitive skills through each year of school. She started with a full-time aide at school that went to a shared aide. Then she had no aide a few years later. She started with orthopedic braces on her feet. They said she would need them for at least 20 or so years. A few years later, she did not have orthopedic braces because I maximized professional therapy. But another situation to deal with is your insurance runs out at a certain period. So then there's no more money for therapy sessions. But I got Shannon into dance class, swimming sessions, as well as non-contact karate. All that movement really did a great to help her rewire her brain, and it helped her improve cognitively. Now, as she was able to recover and as all these strategies were successful, that's what the book's about. The book's about the recovery process. It's about focusing on the small daily victories. So I got all this down. The book covers roughly the first half of covers about the first 3 or 4 months of her injury. The next half covers the next 5 to 6 years. As she recovers, as she gets better, and as she basically has a normal life, even though all the professionals said this wasn't possible. So the book is all about resilience. So I think it can be applied to any issue people are struggling with. If you just focus on the positive, focus on what you can do, not what you can't do, and continue to take small steps and slow but steady progress, you can have a breakthrough and you can recover from a traumatic brain injury.
So if I can ask, as someone that's written personally a lot and other things and writes every day, was writing the book or writing down your notes per se a form of almost stress relief or therapy for you to keep things organized, as well as hoping to help a different family that might be in a similar situation?
Yes, definitely. Because in your early days, you're dealing with neurosurgeons, neurologists, rehab specialists, nurses, all different types of doctors. So I had to write things down to keep them straight. You're writing down medications, you're writing down appointments, you're writing down therapy strategies. So I had stacks of notes from this. Even when I got back to work, people would say, "What are you writing?" And I'd say, "I'm writing today's therapy progress, tomorrow's therapy goals." So that just helped me to reinforce the good she was doing, the progress she was making, and how we could tweak her sessions to help the next session. I found when I was at work, I got the best ideas about Shannon's recovery. The busier you stay, the better your mind works. So I think all that writing gave me some great ideas to discuss with her professional therapist, and we implemented most of them.
And if you had, what was one experience during the writing of this? I mean, how many edits did you go through, or, what was your process for actually taking paper and putting it in the book format? If you could talk a little bit about that.
So I was still working during my free time. I did actually put a draft together of roughly 400 words. And when I started my master's program, I got all sorts of feedback that you write too much like a law enforcement officer. These dialogue sessions are too long. It's too formal. There's not enough emotion. So each class I took, I got additional types of feedback, and then I implemented that feedback in subsequent drafts. So my master's project was this book, and I was in a small group of, I'll say peers, though I was twice their age, but they managed to give me some great feedback, and I managed to make it more enjoyable to the general public, as opposed to just sounding like a formal report. I really had to put in a lot of emotional incidents that I really wasn't comfortable with, but they convinced me to make it identify with more people in such struggles. So there was quite a bit of feedback and a whole lot of revision, which isn't the easiest part when you're writing a book, but it's necessary.
Understand. And how has your family responded, or how has Shannon herself responded to your sharing of all those details? And it's a very personal story, so I'm sure there was some hesitancy, but how did your family react to all this?
I have a large family of 9 brothers and sisters. And when Shannon was in the coma and the first few months in the hospital, I delegated all sorts of jobs to them to help out. My brother is an attorney. He was the first lawyer on the case. My sister is a teacher. She was working with Shannon on relearning words. The other sister's a physical therapist.
Wow.
She was coming up with more strategies to help straighten Shannon's feet. So at the end of this book, there's a 3-page acknowledgement section, and about 2 of those paragraphs are thanking my family for all the services they provided. If I needed products, uh, certain types of clothing or certain types of food, they would deliver them in hours. So this story is a good example of a family uniting when tragedy strikes and working together to overcome tragedy. So as it's such an uplifting tale, I think they were happy about it. I had some concerns about Shannon, and she is a few years removed from a teenager, and teenagers are sensitive about what is written about them.
Mhm.
But I let her read the book, and she gave me some feedback. If she wasn't comfortable with certain areas, I revised in language so she was comfortable. But it does show her strength. And even to this day, though she still has some issues with coordination and balance, it shows her strength. So she's still working towards 100% recovery.
Very good. So tell us a little bit about where Shannon is today, just in general.
This makes perfect sense that Shannon works as a personal trainer. She's been spending her entire life improving balance. So now she's basically an expert on balance. She has an associate's degree in exercise science, as well as a few certifications in personal training. And she has a smaller but niche market of clients. If you have a balance problem, she knows what to do to help.
That's great. How long has she been doing that, if I may ask?
She graduated with an associate's a couple of years ago. So, of course, all gyms shut down during or after the pandemic. So roughly 1 year now.
Okay, very good. So let's talk a little bit about, so you wrote a book, or you have all these ideas, you have drafts, you have revisions, and now you feel like it's time to move to publishing or making the actual final product. Can you talk a little bit about that process?
Yes. So I emailed roughly 100 letters to various publishers, and I got a lot of rejections, basically 97 rejections that basically said, your audience is too small. We cannot market a book that's only about traumatic brain injuries. And I replied, it's about much more than that. It's about resilience. It applies to anybody in some type of struggle. But I did find 3 small presses, one in Texas, one in Kentucky, and one right here in Pennsylvania that were interested in publishing. But as this is about my daughter, I didn't want to sacrifice any rights at all. I want to maintain all rights. So that's why I opted to go to self-publishing route, as well as I wanted to get this out somewhat quickly after getting my master's in writing and move on to my next project. So I went the self-publishing route, and looking back, I'm thinking I'm glad I did, because it's my project to control.
How has the so you talk a little bit about how you self-publish through Amazon, because I am not familiar. How does that process work?
It's all rather simple in terms of uploading it, but the draft was written, but I needed some help on the formatting as well as the cover. And so I brought in a team of interns from Rowan University. They're younger and they had more technology skills, and they kind of walked me through that process. And then we just uploaded it all to Amazon. And after about a week where they screen it, make sure there's no plagiarism and things like that, it went live, electronic and print versions.
And so if it's ordered in print version per se, if I were to order that today, do you ship that out yourself? Does someone else ship it for you? How does that work?
No, it's shipped out by Amazon direct.
Okay.
And they have an outfit in Delaware which does the printing. So local people will get it fairly quickly.
Okay, very good. If you have any advice for those who have an idea in their head or a situation in their life that they're, maybe have pieces of paper written down, what is your advice to them about, starting or continuing with the process?
I think the first step is to write, and then at least you have several hundred pages or so that you can revise, you can edit. And then I think it's crucial in getting feedback, whether it's through family, whether it's through fellow students, whether it's through professionals. But the feedback points out the areas that need to be revised. And you may not see them as needing revision, but somebody who's independent can. So once they provide that feedback and you go back to the drawing board on that section, you ultimately do see it does need to be improved. And I think you have to be open to feedback and willing to revise.
Okay. What's next for Paul? What's next on the horizon?
Quite a few career adventures. So I have a rough manuscript ready, which is I've made into a novel, which is sort of based on career adventures at JFK Airport. It follows four guys as they start their career there and how they blend in that challenging setting with very high risk flights and passengers, and try to form a career with all the comic relief of JFK Airport and all the fireworks of New York City and how it all comes together.
Okay. And when do you think you might be on that, or when do you think that's going to be?
That's just at the rough draft phase now. So
Okay.
I'll review it after I take a bit of a break, and I'll revise it. Then I'll try to get some peer feedback or some professional feedback, and then I'll revise it based on that feedback. So I'd say it's at least a year or two from publication.
Okay. And as we conclude, I'd like to ask you if you have any advice for, again, aspiring authors that might be watching this, or graduates, maybe current students, because we'll be sharing this with both. Do you have a piece of advice that has helped you both, again, after college, through your career and through this process? Do you have anything you'd like to close with?
My book details some of the challenges I had when I was patrolling the border in East Germany with the Army, and just the difficulty of navigating at nighttime in bad weather, and thinking at the time, what are we doing out here? This is so torturous, but somehow we had to work together. We had to get through. Then when my daughter was injured, I was in a similar circumstance of having to stay up for days on end, having to learn all about the brain and the recovery process. Then I looked back to patrolling the border and I thought, I've done this before. I can go 24/7, no problem. So some of your experiences that are difficult experiences are valuable experience, because then when you're working with your family years later, you have that as a wealth of information. And then when you're writing a book years later, you can fall back on that other experience. So I think you really have to tackle the tough experiences that come your way, and they will benefit you in the future.
Okay. Well, Paul, I'd like to thank you for your time today. On behalf of the Educational Foundation and Delaware County Community College, we thank you for sharing your story. We hope Shannon continues to progress and do well. And it sounds like you have a great family, as well as people who have given back to you to make a really bad situation as best as possible. And you had a positive outcome. So we congratulate you on that and continue to wish everybody best wishes, especially for the upcoming holidays.
All right, Doug, same to you. Thank you very much.
And if I may close on behalf of the Educational Foundation, thank you for being with us today. If you've been inspired by Paul's story or would like to learn more, please reach out to the alumni office for more details. Again, we'll be posting links to his book, or we can connect you with Paul for further discussions. We hope any graduate watching this today would also support the Educational Foundation with a gift to support our current students who maybe have great stories to tell. You can, a simple act of generosity today can change a life tomorrow. So please visit our website at the foundation and make your donation today, again, to really change for the next generation of community leadership. So with that said, again, thank you, Paul. I'm going to turn off the recording, and hopefully you'll have continued success in all your future projects.
Thank you very much, Doug.
Thank you.